everyone, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Maddie. I run EdTech Classroom, the blog, podcast, and of course YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving a beginner's tutorial to Google Classroom. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to use Google Classroom. I'll be sharing some ideas for ways you can use this tool with your students. Again, this is very much a beginner's tutorial. I'm really just giving a general overview of how to use this tool. I will also have some other videos that I've created that I think will be really helpful that dive more deeply into some of those specific Google Classroom features in the description down below. So be sure to watch this video first, and then if you're looking to dive even more deeply, you can check out some of those other videos linked down below. So without further ado, let's get started. So right now I am on the Google Classroom website, and the way I got here is I just went to classroom.google.com. I will have that URL linked for you guys in the video description down below, so you can click it and you can actually follow along as I walk you through this tutorial video. So again, we are on the Google Classroom website here, and you'll see that I don't have any classes set up. Let's pretend I'm brand new to Google Classroom, and so this is what you'll see if you've never used this tool before. In the center of our screens here, it says add a class to get started, and there are two choices, either to create a class or to join a class. Create a class is going to be the option that you click if you are a teacher looking to create a class in Google Classroom. And if you are a student looking to join your teacher's class, you would want to click the button that says join class. Now, because this tutorial video is for teachers, we're going to be actually creating a class. Now, there's actually also another way that you can create a class to get started, and you can do that by clicking here in the top right-hand corner on this plus button, and then again, you'll want to click the button that says create class. Now you'll see after I clicked that button to create a class, I'm receiving this notification here that says using Classroom at a school with students. Now you might also receive this notification if you are a teacher who's using, your personal Gmail, or if your school does not have a Google Workspace for Education account, you might receive a notification like this. I'm going to go ahead and click this checkbox, but this is something that you should look more into if you do receive this notification. Next, I'm going to press continue, and you'll see that now I have a few options that I need to fill out here to actually create my class. So at the very top here, it says class name required. So this is where you're going to type in the name of your class. So for example, if you are a 5th grade teacher and you're wanting to create a 5th grade math section, you would just want to type in 5th grade math here, for example. I'm going to type in STEM class here, just as an example for today's video. And then underneath that, you'll see that we have section, subject, and room. Now, I personally never really find myself filling out that section, subject, or room options here. Instead, actually, what I typically might do is I might say something like, 5th grade STEM class here, so that students who are in 5th grade so that if I teach multiple grade levels, for example, I'm really able to stay organized. So instead of adding the section or the grade in that section category, I personally like to include it under that class name. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, but wanted to let you know that that is an option. So you can include the section, you can include the subject, you can include the room if you would like. None of those fields are required, but they are an option for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on the Create button to create my class. It'll take a second to load. Google Classroom needs to kind of set everything up for you, and then you'll actually begin to be able to customize your class. So you'll see here I am taken to this class here called STEM class. You know that it is the STEM class because you'll see in the top left-hand corner I have that title of the class, and I also have it on this big banner across the top of my screen here. So the way I'm going to walk you through this tutorial is I'm going to go tab by tab. So at the top of our screen, you'll see that we are on the Stream tab right now. There are 4 different tabs. We have Stream, Classwork, People, and Grades. For now, we're going to focus on this Stream tab. So this Stream tab is actually a place where you as the teacher can talk to your class. So I always recommend that teachers use this stream tab to share announcements, post assignments, and respond to student questions. Primarily though, we're really using this stream tab as a place to share announcements. So you'll see that there is a section right here that says announce something to your class. So I can click here and I can actually create an announcement. So for example, I could type something like, welcome to Google Classroom. In today's class, we will be going over how to use this tool. Please bring your Chromebook to class today. And that would be an announcement that I could potentially share with my class. Now you'll see first I have this STEM class section grayed out here. Now because I only have one class set up in Google Classroom currently, that's why it's grayed out, but you actually would have the option to select other classes that you would like to also share this announcement to. So for something like this, that's really a general announcement, I would have the ability to select other classes if I would like to share it to those classes as well. Now next here you'll see we have this All Students tab. We'll take a look at this more in depth when we are actually showing how to create an assignment in Google Classroom. But for now, essentially what you need to know about this is you can actually only send announcements to certain groups of students if you would like. So for example, if there's 5 students that you want to share an announcement to, you can actually click on those 5 students' names instead of sending it to all students in your class. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and click on all students, and then I can post this announcement. At the bottom here too, you'll see that Google Classroom recently in 2021 added some of these features to actually add formatting, which I find to be so helpful. They used to actually not have any formatting, so you weren't able to play around with how this looks stylistically. I personally find myself using this bulleted list quite frequently in Google Classroom, so I'm really happy that they added these new formatting features. And at the bottom here too, you'll also see that there are some places for you to add links and files. So for example, if you wanted to attach something from Google Drive, if you wanted to upload a file from your computer, if you wanted to add a link to a website, or if you wanted to add a YouTube video, you could do that here. I'll show you what those buttons look like more when we're in the classwork tab, creating an actual assignment. So next what I can do is I can go over here to the post option, and I can actually post this immediately for students in my Google Classroom to see. Or if I'd like to actually save this for later, I can click on this drop down menu and I can choose to either schedule this post to go live at a certain time, or I can just save this as a draft to come back to later. I personally really like to schedule announcements so that students receive them at a specific time. This is particularly helpful if you want students to see this reminder a few minutes before class to know that they actually need to bring their Chromebook, for example. I might want to schedule this so it pops up on students' devices, 30 minutes before class, for example. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and press post so you can see what this looks like. So this stream here, essentially, I kind of like to explain this to teachers as it's almost like a Facebook news feed, where it becomes this sort of stream of consciousness type style where all of these posts are happening in chronological order, with the newest posts up at the top and then older posts are going to be at the bottom. Anytime you upload a new assignment to Google Classroom, that will also automatically get uploaded to this stream tab for students to be able to see. Now, another feature I want to point out is I did mention that sometimes you can respond to student questions in this stream tab. So students currently, the automatic feature for students in Google Classroom is for them to actually be able to post announcements on the stream tab and to be able to comment. Now, if you teach younger students, you might want to actually turn that feature off. In my experience, I have found when I've given students the ability to actually comment or post on Google Classroom on this stream feature here, they've kind of flooded this page. Now, that's a really great opportunity for you to, of course, have some conversations around agreements, digital citizenship, but I personally like to just kind of avoid having that happen, and I will actually adjust the settings so that only the teacher and co-teachers are able to post in this stream. Now, that's just me. You guys know your students better than I do, so feel free to kind of take that idea if you'd like, or if you think it's great for your students to be able to post, then go for it. The way that you can actually make those adjustments is up here in the settings. If you click on settings, I can scroll down here to where it says stream, and it says students can post and comment. I can choose here for only teachers to be able to post or comment. And so I'll go ahead and press save, and I'll walk you through these settings more in depth later, but while we're talking about that, I just wanted to go ahead and show you. So again, this is the stream tab. Now, a few other features that I want to point out here is on the left-hand side, you'll see that we have this option here that says class code. So there's a couple different ways that students can join your class, and one of which is by joining using this class code. Then next, also, we have this upcoming section. This is where it will show upcoming assignments. So currently there's no work due soon because we haven't created any assignments yet, but that actually would be located here for you as the teacher and for students to be able to see. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to customize this banner here. So currently, Google Classroom just kind of uses different, words essentially. And if you say something like coding, you might notice that there's going to be a bunch of technology in this banner image. If you say math, there's going to be some math images. For this STEM class here, it looks like it went with this generic, maybe breakfast theme. I think I see a grapefruit and some coffee. I'm not really sure, but you can actually change this if you'd like. So I'm going to go up here to where it says customize, and now there are two choices. First, you can upload a photo. So I've seen many teachers have actually chosen to upload their own photo to this banner. You know, maybe it's a class photo, maybe it's a picture of your physical classroom, maybe you created a really fun design using your Bitmoji. I've seen teachers actually upload their own banners. For me personally, I typically just gravitate towards selecting one of the themes that Google has already created for us, but I did want to point that out as an option. So I'm going to click here where it says select theme, and then you'll see that these are the choices that Google Classroom has put together for us. So you'll see we have this, honors class here, we have this graduation image, we have this book club, we have coding, we have this one here, looks like there's some sort of iPad or something happening. We have reading, etc. So lots of choices. For this STEM class, I'm going to go ahead and click on this coding image here. And I'm going to select that as my class theme. And now you'll see that the banner has changed. So again, you can choose to upload your own image, or you can customize by selecting one of the themes that Google Classroom has already put together for you. So next, let's take a look at this classwork tab. So we'll go up to the top here, and we're going to click on the button that says classwork. So this is actually the place where you are going to be assigning your work. This is where, as the teacher, you can add assignments and you can add other work for the class, and then also organize it into different topics. Now I'm going to show you how to do all of that. So I personally always find myself on the classwork tab. Automatically, when you open up Google Classroom, it typically will take you to the stream tab, but I always tell students focus on the classwork tab. That is the most important tab in Google Classroom. So again, right here, we're on this classwork tab, and the first thing we can do is create an assignment. So I'm going to click here where it says create, and you'll see we have this drop-down menu with several options. So first, we can create an assignment, which is what I'm going to be doing. Next, you also have the ability to actually create a quiz assignment. So when you do this, you can create a quiz in Google Classroom for students to complete. So basically what that looks like is you can actually create a Google form that's set up as a quiz for students to have to respond to quiz questions. So this is really useful if you are wanting to have, post quizzes to Google Classroom, and they make it really easy for you to be able to do that using Google Forms. Then next we have this question option where essentially you can ask students a question that they then can respond to. Now also we have this material choice. So the material choice here is going to be really useful if you just have, handouts or something that you want students to be looking at during class. You can upload that here using material. So there's not going to be anything for students to actually submit as an assignment. This would just be materials that you want students to be referencing for an assignment or for class time. And then next, you also have the ability to reuse a post. This is really useful if you are teaching, if you are a special area teacher and you have multiple sections, for example. So let's say you are a elementary science teacher and you have, you're teaching so many different classes. This is really useful so that you can reuse a post from class to class. So let's say, you teach 3 different 3rd grade classes. You actually can reuse this post for all 3 of your 3rd grade classes. So really useful to be able to reuse assignments with other classes. And then next here we have the topic, which you can use to stay organized. I will be showing you how to do that as well. So for now, let's go ahead and click here to where it says assignment. So now you'll see we're on this create an assignment tab here, and the first thing we can do is we can create a title for our assignment. So I can say, introduction to coding activity. And here I can add some instructions. So I might say something like, for today's assignment, we are going to complete a coding activity using code.org. Click on the link and complete level 1 of our coding puzzles. All right. So again, there's some of those formatting features. Maybe let's say you'd like to, bold coding activity for it to be really clear what students are going to be doing. Maybe you want to italicize, you could underline. All of these formatting features you have the ability to use. Again, I often find myself using that bulleted list quite frequently. And so next, let me show you guys what some of these options down here look like. So if I click here where it says add Google Drive file, I can actually attach a file from my Google Drive. So let's say that you have, a slides presentation that you want to attach here. You have the ability to do that just by clicking on Add Google Drive File. You can click on the file that you want to attach and you'll be good to go. Next, you also have the ability to upload a file directly from your computer. So let's say you have a PDF that's attached, that's saved on your computer. You can attach that here by clicking this upload button. You can also add a link, which is what I'm going to be doing for this assignment in particular, and you can also add a YouTube video. So I'm going to add a link to this activity in particular. So I'm going to click here on the add link button, and I actually already have a link in my clipboard. I copied a link to the code.org activity that I'm referring to, and I can just go ahead and paste that link, and I can press add link, and you'll see it's actually been uploaded and attached to this activity. So students know that for this activity in particular, they will need to complete this programming with Angry Birds activity, a part of code.org. Now next, also, you can actually attach a new item. So if you want to create something completely from scratch, before we talked about how you can upload a file that you already have in your Google Drive, you also can create a new file. So if you, come up with this idea for an assignment and you want to create something from scratch, you can do that by clicking on this plus button, and you can create a new Google Doc, a new Google slide, sheet, drawing, form, etc. So that is something to point out. Now next, over here on the right hand side, you'll see that again, you can choose which class you'd like to share the assignment to. You can choose if you'd like to share it with specific students or the entire class. Next, you can choose here the points. So if you click on the drop down menu, you can make this activity ungraded if you would like, or you can choose to have a number of points attached to this activity. I might make this one be 10 points. Next here, you can also add a due date. So let's say you want to select a specific due date. Maybe I want to choose for this activity to be due on, Monday. I could click on February 14th, which is this upcoming Monday, and this activity would be due for students then. Now next, you can also add this to a topic, which I will be showing you how to do later. The next thing that I want to point out that I am really excited about is Google Classroom actually has a rubric that you can attach. So if I click on rubric here, I can actually create a rubric that is really useful to allow students to, for you as the teacher, to be able to grade students. I actually have a Google Classroom rubric tutorial that I will have linked in the video description down below to show you how this rubric feature works specifically. I'm a really big fan of using this feature to save you time. So please be sure to check out that video if you're curious how you can create a rubric and share it with students, and then you can grade using Google Classroom. All right, so now that I'm ready to share this assignment with students, I can click on this assign button, or just like we could before, I can click on this drop-down menu and I can schedule the assignment. So personally, what I like to do to stay organized is when I'm using Google Classroom with students, I like to, at the start of the month, kind of go through and schedule all of my Google Classroom posts for the dates that I want them to go live. I personally just find this to be a really great time-saving tip for me, that I can kind of plan everything out, schedule it, and then I don't have to worry about it on a daily basis. Now, of course, not everyone likes that approach. As you all know, and as I know as an educator, sometimes things, happen last minute. Sometimes you can't really always stick to your plan. And so that's okay. You don't have to always use that scheduling feature if you don't want to. You can automatically just kind of press the assign button and go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this assign button to assign this activity to students. Now, one more thing that I want to show you guys about this Create tab here is if I click on Create and I create another assignment, I do want to show you this awesome feature where you can actually create a copy of a file for each student in your class. So let's say that I want to just say, coding reflection prompt. On the Google Doc attached, type, please share a strength and stretch you have in coding right now. Ooh, I can't type right now. All right, so I'm going to click on this plus button to attach a new Google Doc, just to show you what this looks like. So I can say, of course, as the teacher, you can choose to make this more organized, but I can add a section for a strength and a section for a stretch. And so I can call this coding reflection. I'll go back to Google Classroom. All right, so we're back on Google Classroom. I just kind of went back to the Google Classroom tab, and you'll see that we have this coding reflection Google Doc that is attached here. Again, you might want to make the doc much more robust than I did, but just showing you this as an example. So here it says coding reflection again, and right here now it says students can view the file. So if you have a file, let's say a reading activity that you want all of your students to be able to view, where there's kind of one file that they're all looking at, you would want to choose this option here that says students can view file. But for something like this that is actually a reflection that you want students to be able to complete and edit, you can click on this drop-down menu and you can click this option here that says make a copy for each student. So essentially what this does is it's really similar to if you imagine, you have worksheets that you share for students. You have one file, you print out 20 copies and you pass out one to each student in your class. This functions the exact same way. So essentially what it does is, you have one Google Doc file that you created as a template, and it is then going to create 20 different copies, or one copy for every single student in your class. So if I click on make a copy for each student in your class, again, is going to receive their own copy that they can edit. So you're not going to have, 20 students editing the same document. Instead, they'll each have their own copy. So I personally find that to be really an amazing feature of Google Classroom. Now, let's say just because this is a reflection prompt, maybe I don't want it to be graded. I can click here on that drop-down menu. I can choose ungraded, and I can press assign. So now you'll see that as this loads, this assignment is going to be added to the classwork tab on Google Classroom. All right, so you'll see here, we have our coding reflection prompt and we have our introduction to coding activity. You'll see here right now, it says that 0 students have turned it in and 0 students have been assigned this activity. Now that's because I haven't added any students to my Google Classroom yet. Now, when you have, let's say you've uploaded your 20 students to Google Classroom, they're all in your account. This number right here is going to say assigned to 20, or however many students you've chosen to assign the activity to. And then here you would see the number that have turned in the activity. Now, because 0 students have completed this activity, 0 students have turned it in, this number here is going to say 0. But as students start to actually turn in this assignment, you will start to see this number grow. So it's really helpful for you to see, let's say, 12 out of 16 students have turned this in. It's really useful for you to be able to see these numbers right here just quickly at a glance. All right, now the next thing I want to show you guys is how you can kind of get organized with Google Classroom. So if you click here on this create button, you can click on topic to actually create these headers for these for your different sections, for example, or your different units. So let's say unit 1 is going to be intro to coding. I can actually create this topic, which is going to be essentially like a header. And as the teacher, you can kind of drag and drop these to keep things organized for students. So all of the files that are going to be associated with Unit 1, you could put under this Unit 1 topic here. I could create another topic for Unit 2, and maybe this one is going to be maker challenges. I can add that. And you'll see that now there's another topic. You can rearrange these topics to, maybe you want to start with Unit 1 at the top and then go all the way down to the bottom, or maybe you want new topics to appear as the class progresses. There's a couple different ways that you can do this, but I really like these topics to help stay organized in Google Classroom. You'll also see that these topics appear here on the left-hand side as buttons that students can click on to take them directly to that unit, or you as the teacher can click on those too to take you directly to that unit, which I find to be really helpful. All right, so now that we've kind of done a quick overview of the classwork tab, let's move on to the people tab of Google Classroom. So I'm going to click here where it says people, and you'll see that we have teachers and students. So here where there is this person with a plus sign, this is a button I can click on to actually invite other teachers. So let's say that you have a co-teacher that you want to invite to Google Classroom. You can actually click on this option here, type in their Google account, type in their email address, and it will actually share them as to be a co-teacher in your Google Classroom. Next here also, this is where you can invite students. Now if you remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there's a couple different ways that students can join your Google Classroom. First, you have the ability to click on this invite students, and you can actually type in students' email addresses here. Another way that you can add students to Google Classroom is you can actually click here on this stream tab. You can share this class code here with students. You can project it on your board. You can, share it with students in whatever way you think kind of makes sense. And they can actually type in this join code to be able to join Google Classroom. So the two different ways essentially that students can join your class is you can type in their email address, or you can share this join code with them to fill out when they go to the Google Classroom website. So I'm going to click here on the people tab, and I'm actually going to invite my student email address, so my edtech classroomstudent@gmail.com, and I'm going to press invite. So you'll see that my EdTech Classroom student has now been invited. Once that student actually accepts the invitation, they will then appear here as a part of the Google Classroom. So you'll see that I went ahead and I just accepted the invitation to this Google Classroom as EdTech student, and you'll see that now the name is here. Now something that's useful is once a student is in your class, you can click on these three dots here and you can choose to email the student directly. I find that to be a really useful feature. You can remove a student from your class, let's say they drop your class, or you can even choose to mute a student. I've never clicked on this button, so I'm not entirely sure what it does. I would imagine it just makes it so that they aren't able to comment on the stream and things like that. But anyways, I find myself probably using this email student feature the most, but you might not really choose to ever use this feature, but did just want to point it out. So again, EdTech student accepted the Google Classroom invitation, and so this is essentially what the People tab looks like. Really, I only ever use this tab to kind of set up Google Classroom, and then I never find myself kind of engaging with this tab once the class has been created. So of course, you will have probably many more than just one student in this class, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what this People tab actually looks like. Now next, we're going to click here on the Grades tab, and I want to point out a few features to you. So this is actually like a gigantic grade book. So up at the top here, you'll see that this is where all of the assignments are going to go, all the way across the top here. And then on the left-hand side, that's where you'll see all of the students are going to appear. So right now, again, we only have 2 assignments and we have 1 student in our class. Now you'll actually see here that EdTech student scored an 8 out of 10 on this Intro to Coding activity. This will actually pop up automatically if you are having students, complete a quiz, for example, or if you're using that rubric feature that I was talking about and you're kind of grading for students. All of that information will auto-fill in here for you in this gradebook tab. Again, if you want to check out how that rubric and grading works, I highly recommend you check out that other tutorial video that I will have linked in the video description down below for you guys. Another way that you can also grade is you can type in grades manually here. So, let's say that you previously gave ed tech student an 8 out of 10, but maybe you went back and you decided to change their score to an 8.5. You can actually do that to where now this score has actually been adjusted. So all of their grades will kind of appear here as a digital grade book for you as the teacher to reference. Now the next thing I want to show you guys is the settings feature. So we visited the settings button a little bit ago at the start of the video when we were talking about the stream. I'm going to go ahead and click back on that so I can point out some of the other features for you guys. So if I click on settings, you'll see that this is where we have the class details. If you want to make any adjustments to your class details, you can do that in the settings here. Now next we also have this general section. So this is where you can create those invite codes. So you can share an invite link with students, you can share a class code, or you can kind of display this class code. Those are different ways that students can join your class for the first time. Then next here, this is where we have the stream features here. So the stream, only teachers can post or comment. That's the feature that we adjusted at the beginning of this video. You also have classwork on the stream. I can show you what that looks like. Essentially, what this means is that every time you create a new assignment, it is actually going to also appear on the stream tab, not just the classwork tab. Here you can show deleted items. This would be only for teachers to be able to access. Here you can also add a classroom meet link. So because I am using my personal Gmail account and not the Google Workspace for Education account, you'll see that I don't have permission to create or edit a Google Meet link. But this is where you would be able to have your own Google Meet link for your students to be able to access. So if you needed to have a virtual meeting with students, a virtual class with students, you could actually launch that through Google Classroom, which I think is a really handy feature. Then down here below, we also have a grading tab. So here you'll see we have the grading calculation. So essentially this section here says overall grade calculation, choose a grading system, and basically you can choose to provide students with an overall grade based off of that grade book that we were looking at. So you can do total points or weighted by category. And then if you want students to be able to see their overall grade, you could turn this feature on if you would like. Because I have this set to no overall grade, I'm not able to make that adjustment, but if I switch it to total points, you'll see that students would actually be able to see their overall grade for the class. So that's kind of up to you, a feature that you can choose to turn on if you think it makes sense for your students. And then you can also add some different grade categories as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save button, and we've gone through most of the features of Google Classroom. This was very much a beginner's tutorial, just kind of showing you what all these tabs look like. If we go back to this Stream tab here, you'll see that this is where it becomes that sort of stream of consciousness style that I was talking about, where you'll see our assignments that we created are here, and same with that announcement that we shared earlier. So again, this was a very general overview to using Google Classroom. If you guys have really specific questions, please feel free to leave a comment in the video description down below, and I'd be happy to help answer some of the questions that you might have. Thank you so much for watching today's video all about how to use Google Classroom. If you liked this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I post weekly tech tutorials for teachers, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye, friends.